Alison. That's
I,
interesting. I have to get oriented when I take my glasses off. It's like it's weird. Like everything's a blur, and then it fixes after a moment or so, and I can like see you again.
have you heard the tip about like after about 20 minutes on screen, look away to the outside and refocus and then come back to the screen?
I don't think so, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's really, really helpful. Look off in the distance to like a window outside nature,
Hmm.
as long as you have nature.
I am no, I do right outside my little space there, which the space you've been in. I look right out on, I got flowers and trees right out the window. It works out.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm really, really busy and just watching the whole. It seems like, is this right? Like I'm busy. I'm going from one thing to another, and it seems like everyone's doing that. Seems like everyone's really busy right
Is that any different?
now. Well, I mean, there's like that general, we know, yeah. What's different, I guess, is my perception of it. Like there's just knowing that everyone's busy, and then my assessment that everyone's too busy, right? There's that whole thing out there, which is a separate thing. But no, my perception is now that I'm noticing that everyone I interact with is really busy.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
you were really busy when you came on this call last time.
yeah, that's I don't know. I kind of want to use the word flow.
Uh-huh.
Because yeah. I mean, I leave Sunday for 6.5 weeks overseas, right? And so we could say I'm pretty busy.
Yeah.
And it would be accurate.
Well, don't we automatically, when we say busy, don't we automatically assign a negative connotation to that? Because it's completely possible to be busy without being stressed, right?
Yeah, that's why I would want to use the word flow.
Yeah.
And I think the old paradigm would want to use the word productive. I
Uh-huh.
heard something recently that was really brilliant, especially for business owners, or even people in a job where you have a lot of emails to answer that day. And instead of saying you're busy, you could say you're popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Okay.
Playing with the perceptions always.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
So what
going
do
to
you
come
want? So what do you
true.
want to? What do you want to talk about today?
Um, I don't know. I think where we started, the flow versus busy. Like I'm really noticing, thanks for asking that. I just did this really cool attunement follow-up one-on-one session with a client, and um I was flowing these energies to her from the attunement of allowing yourself to have what you really desire. And it was interesting because before that I also did the follow-up of boosting the aspects of open up to flow and new possibilities, and going into the specific aspects of each attunement and watching her system take in new energy to replace how she's used to looking at um like new possibilities. And I watched one of the conversions from like the risk assessment of when we make a certain choice that's new, like how we go into the mind with its projections of what to expect from that choice. What are the outcomes that I can anticipate from this? All the
Okay.
negotiating that goes on in the self-talk before making a choice, as we're
Right.
making a choice so significant. And I watched the shift happen in her of that collapse, and something popped open in her heart chakra, and it was lovely to see. And I asked her, did you perceive that shift? And she's like, yeah, I feel like all of a sudden like a kid in a candy shop.
Oh.
And for me, yeah, what that presented was like a real clear contrast as we're talking now, 2 days out from the next eclipse with the new moon It's a partial solar eclipse on Sunday. Um,
Okay.
I'm really noticing like the old paradigm and its conditioning and influences on like productive versus the new energies of the new paradigm and the new era really coming in with the astrological alignments that we're living under now to, instead of productive or busy, flow in creation.
Gosh, I love that. I mean, I started thinking, I mean, I had the thought a few minutes ago, or when we first started this, of like just like semantics, words and where are we going to go with this whole thing and flow. Okay, that works. But now, as I really hear you talk and I think
Yeah,
about that and I think about that word,
you feel the
um,
energy.
it's palpable. And there's also, especially, I'm always a fan of, it always helps me if I can find a contrast. And so at least that's been helping me lately on various ways. And so the example I give now is, or that helps me now, is thinking about productivity, because there's so much out there in the business world, in the work world, as far as like just all this stuff, like how to be productive, how to be less distracted, how to be more focused. And it's all about, and it just feels very brainy. It feels very
Eddie.
intellectually based of how to be more productive, how to make the most of your time, and how to, and it almost like goes under the guise of, and they're like, you'll hear every now and then someone talk about, they'll throw in like a word like mindfulness, and they'll talk about that for a minute, and they'll talk about, and they'll start bringing in kind of like new agey sort of terminology, but it's still all just brainy. It's just all intellectual, and it's very, I'm sure, helpful. I mean, I've definitely found some tools helpful from that standpoint, as far as like um, how to set aside, how to, I don't know, like time blocking and using creative time and setting it, like all these like strategies,
Yeah.
right? And it's just all so thinky when you contrast it. So that's the contrast I'm seeing right now in this moment between that and just as I think about just that word flow, because there's none of that other stuff I was mentioning. While it's helpful to go for a walk and take breaks and figure out when you're most productive and use that time well and know that you can't, pound it out, all that stuff is good to know. But none of that is the same as, you're not really feeling relaxed. You're not relaxing into, when you think about flow and when you're in a flow and when you work with flow and you work with what wants to happen and you're aware of energy and you start moving with energy, it's a completely different experience. It's none of that other stuff.
You said a couple of things that I want to respond to. It's great that you said the contrast. You've been learning a lot from that lately. And that's one of the key tools as a classroom teacher I was taught to use. One of the key ways people learn is from contrast. So then comes the T chart, the almighty T chart as a teacher, where you just literally draw a non-capital T and then you section what you label one column and you label the other column and then what it is and what it isn't.
Uh-huh.
And then you said something else that was really, I want to add in the flow is with creativity. It's, and I know that a lot of people think of creativity as like macrame or bead, jewelry making. And really, we're up to creating our lives every day with all the choices we make, right? That's not new. But what I'm getting at is I have another example. I had a woman. I'm going to be speaking over in Glastonbury. I typically do when I'm over there to a local audience, and my people from the UK frequently travel from all over to come and be with me there when I give this talk. And she was asking about, like, what about the people who want to hear the talk in the beginning, but they don't want to stay for the energy medicine clearings and activations because they're not sure what they're going to get, or they don't trust the frequencies or the modality or all of all of that, which you can see what my hands doing. And what my response to her was, in letting myself in my flow respond without filtering myself. I was like, that just feels like more of the intellect, more of the ego mind being applied to some kind of overall light and chopping it up as the mind does instead of treating something holistically.
Yeah.
So, and I also said to her, you know, the light has a divine intelligence of its own. And trusting that instead of being in this state of almost high alert, like, what do I have to watch for? What do I have to guard against happening? As if living life from a problem solving positioning and that reliance on the intellect or the ego mind, as we call it in Buddhist meditation, and just how much of the new energies we're moving into, the influences, when I say energies, that we're going to be living under, and we already are, from the different astrological alignments that cause us to feel a certain way and think a certain way and focus on some stuff and not focus on other stuff, are asking us to move beyond living from the mind and move into more heart-based choices and living from there. And so what does that look like? You know,
Right.
because a lot of people are saying that. One of them is exactly what we're talking about here, everything we're talking about here. And then, like, allowing yourself to allow for something different. One of the things that's really interesting to me too about the nature of the ego mind is how predictive, how it's almost like, again, that risk management of, like, I'm living from a positioning of problem solving and prevention of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so none of that involves trust. None of that involves a conception of there's something larger than me that has its own inherent intelligence that wants the best for me.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking of my favorite Einstein quote, the most important choice a human being can make is whether they view the universe as friendly or hostile. And learning and leaning more into the mystery, because the mystery is the feminine. If the yin yang, the black is the feminine, the white's the masculine, and each has a bit in each circle, as we know, with the little smaller dots. And so the mystery is the divine feminine, and the knowing, this predictability, is what's in the light of the sun, in the white is the masculine. So we're talking about working more in the land of, it's not in physical form yet, it's not out in the light visible. And so we're talking about skills with which to work within the mystery.
Mm-hmm. I Oh wow, I had so many thoughts I watched fly by while you were saying that in and
I
around.
saw that.
Yeah, I was well, but I want to hone in maybe I think on because you said something that I have real experience with, and that is with trust. And that is like how do you because I mean someone can just say to you, lighten up, you got to lighten up, right? Oh, how do you do that? And it always seemed to me like how do you live a life of play? How do you live a life that's creative? How do you live a life from your heart? And it really seems like that has to start with trust because everything you just described, as far as like coming at life from a problem solving risk management standpoint, is basically the opposite of that, right? But it takes it takes experience to trust. So one of the things, so like an experience I had this morning, I was so that after this call with you, I'm going to do a guided meditation, right?
Who's that for,
So,
by the way?
oh, a group of like wonderful souls. I think they're like mostly in North Carolina and somewhere else. They're like, I think
Smarty?
I think they're engineers.
Is this via Marty or?
No, no, another friend, another fellow teacher, actually, fellow
Okay, cool.
Ananda meditation teacher. Yeah, it's really cool. We're taking turns.
I've been wondering about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, I really enjoy meditating with them, and But my point is, I was out for a walk this morning. I was out for my walk, and today, and like I said, just feeling busy. I'm usually pretty good. I'm usually actually quite good
Good.
at walking, um, in the sense that in the sense of there are so many. I mean, just like 100 different strategies you can use to allow yourself to walk in a way that's actually beneficial as opposed to just letting your mind go and just I mean enjoying nature and being outside is wonderful just to begin with, exercising, but of course there are ways to walk in a never mind in a meditative way, right? Or at least in a way that's present, right? But I was not that way this morning when I first started walking. I looked at my watch after this happened, which I'm about to I tell you what happened. And I'd been walking for 25 minutes, basically
Wow.
with my head mostly down.
Tripping.
That's one of the strategies I have, just as far as the 3 levels of consciousness. They're related to the position of the gaze. So one of the strategies is, if I notice I'm in my head and I'm just going, I look up, I adjust my gaze up. I usually use the treetops, and that'll bring my consciousness up, and that'll bring me into the moment there, right? So I
Right.
knew after 25 minutes. I mean, I'm sure that my head was mostly down looking at the pavement, because I was thinking about this one particular like email, or maybe it was like a Teams chat or something that was just, I was rehashing it and rehashing it, and I was thinking I was just completely in it. And so I noticed where I was, and I say, okay, I want to shift. I want to think about, okay, I'm gonna have that conversation with Alison today. I'm gonna have that meditation group after that, and I just said out loud, I just invited Divine Mother. I just said, will you inspire me? Inspire me. What am I
Mm,
talking about? And I said that, and I kid you
lovely.
not, Alison. And so I thought about, like, just stop and ask. Just
Yeah.
stop and ask is
Yep.
such a powerful strategy,
Yep.
because I was walking on this part of the road. I walk on a main road for a good bit. And as soon as I said that, I heard a rustling heard a rustling in the woods. And I was like, as soon as I asked, I heard a rustling in the woods across the road. And I stopped and I turned. And this thick woods, but right through this kind of space between these two particular, like a bush and a tree, was a doe. Now,
Mm.
I say that to you, you're in Florida, and it's quite common to see deer in Florida. Like, Dad has like a breeding ground behind his house. Like, I know how common it is to see deer down there. Up here in New York, in the Northeast, upstate, it's not that common.
David,
I
I
don't
saw deer almost every day in my visit up there this year.
I don't see
Right
them
in
that
his
often.
neighborhood.
Yeah, no, I do see them, and I have seen them in his neighborhood too. I'm not saying it's unheard of. I'm just
I'm with you on how rare it is. I've never
yeah,
had a deer almost, and a lot of the time it was a doe. I'm with you. I've
yeah,
never
yeah.
had
No,
a
no, I
experience.
know you are. And so what, but, and the other thing is, I have never seen so much as a squirrel in this part in these particular woods. I've
Oh my
walked by
God,
these woods
what's
hundreds of
that
times.
like? They're everywhere here.
I know, right?
Antics.
But there's like, there's just never anything there. And it's just so, well, the reason I'm sharing this with you, yes, one, it's a wonderful experience, and I love sharing these experiences with you. But two,
Thank you. I love it too.
just as far as that, and by the way, it wasn't just a doe, like, we made eye contact, and
Oh,
then she had a few, her babies are like, those are fawns, right? So I think there was probably one or two, and we looked, we had a moment, and then she just hopped away. You know, when they, like, you see them from behind and their little tails just go poof, like up in the air and they're gone.
yes. The
Oh, I
little white
love it.
tails.
She just trotted away. And as soon as she trotted away and I saw the other two fawns go, I looked up, and a single blue heron flew across the
Mm.
sky.
Blue heron there is rare too.
Yeah. Well, I usually see that, for some reason, I only tend to see them crossing the highway. I don't know why.
Where are they coming
When
from?
I do see them, I don't know. I
There's
started
got to be a
seeing them.
migratory route.
Yeah. Could
Okay,
be.
I'm trying to figure it out. I want to stop that.
Yeah. The
My
what is
bird
it?
background.
The Audubon Society member that you are.
Background.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, but the reason to bring this all the way back is, that is an experience, because as soon as that happened, I just started laughing joyfully out loud and just saying thank you. All I had to do was ask, right? I stopped and asked,
All I
just
had to
stop and
do was
ask. And I
ask.
started talking to myself, David, just stop and ask. Just stop and ask. And the reason that I tell you this story is not just because it's a sweet story with
Lovely.
a deer, but because those are the kind of experiences that I've had over and over and over again, where that trust in something else that's going on here, something else that's involved, something else that's right here, right now, as soon as we just pause and stop. I'm not saying every time you do that, that immediately a deer will show up or a bird will fly
Oh,
across.
you're not?
I'm just
Hmm.
saying.
No butterflies all the time on demand?
Right, right. I mean, it doesn't work exactly that way, but over time, you build up experiences. I certainly have, because 10 years ago, I mean, I was toddling and stuff like this, right? And I'm just saying, over time, things happen, and that you experience things, and trust isn't just something like, okay, I trust, and like you say the words and now it happens. I just it comes from experience.
Well, it's kind of funny because I've been saying for quite a long time, choice is a musculature to exercise. I was just talking about this again last night on my Magic Manifestation and Money Flow group call. It's
Mm,
a musculature. And so exercising, instead of making every choice you make so important and significant and debating and the risk management and everything, like just exercising your capacity to make a choice. And that example you gave of David, stop and ask, that was you exercising your ability to make a different choice once you became aware enough to observe, hey man, I'm in my head, and no, what else is possible? Looking up. I love that gaze that you talked about. um Now you made a different choice, and then you made another different choice of stop and ask. So that's it's simple as that, like learning
mm,
how to make new and different choices that are going to yield a more um enjoyable outcome. Yeah, and so this is the creativity I'm talking about, that help, the more you exercise it, the musculature, the stronger it gets, just as if we're in a gym training our biceps. And then that creates more flow. And so there's the ask, the I have been seeing, as I've been part of my positioning, from 2011, really, but talking about the 2012 to 2032 grand shift, what's considered humanity's greatest evolutionary leap. I have been tracking it. My books are two of the four are written about this. I talk about this all the time on interviews, as if I'm positioned in a way to help guide us through this, those who feel gravitated towards it. And one of the things I started to notice starting like in 2013, 14, and it hasn't stopped increasingly. And I even have products in my online shop talking about this. Support from the metaphysical helpers has increased. And as we're in humanity's spiritual awakening times, there has been, and there's a lot of other people talking about this. It's even people doing like channeling, that of the blue beings. Like I'm not really all that far into that stuff. But what they're talking about is the perception of moving more into our understanding of beyond the physical. There's a lot of multidimensional or metaphysical support. And so when you said Divine Mother, it was another form of addressing God, the divine. Um, and I've noticed more um elementals more awake, especially after COVID. Like nature seemed to become more alive, and in part that was because nature had been cleaned of the human interference. And so the sprites, the fairies, the pixies, the little elemental playthings um were able to come out and flower more. So I'm talking about both on the earth as well as around each of us. I'm getting a little bit out there for you, I think. But
I'm all right. I'm listening.
excellent. So one of the other things that's really super cool is when I'm working with my students over in Glastonbury, and they're in their trainings, and they're in specifically the Dragon Master level, and I introduce working with some dragons to them. The There's a certain grouping of some dragons that are called galactic dragons. And
Okay.
I've watched a couple of like one of them is a woman who comes from a security background, like at airports and in other capacities. And so
Right.
she's used to like looking for what's wrong, what's suspect here. And so, but she has this massive intelligence because she was kind of in intelligence, right? And when I introduced the galactic dragons to her, her whole being like shifted, relaxed, lit up, got like on. And I see that happen with a lot of people. Like once there's a couple of crows flying by right now. Once a lot of crows actually coming to the oak tree right outside my window as I'm saying this. God, that's magical.
But did you watch the video I sent you this past week with the crows?
Dude, I don't think that you did send me that
I
video.
did send it to you. Yes,
I mean to question you.
well, the reason is because I know,
Oh, this one.
yeah, that looks all right.
I didn't have a chance to view it.
Well, here
No.
I'll save you. I'll save you from having to watch it. What, are you going to watch it right now? Let's all watch Alison watch this. Or well, but you have to have the audio. Listen, listen. I can't hear it.
Yeah, they're going off.
They are, but the point of the video was that I usually see three crows. One, two, most often three crows. And I see and hear crows almost daily around here. But for the past few weeks, I have been seeing flocks of crows. Flocks, like they just keep coming. And that's what that video was. And there was a whole mess of them all squawking in the street. And there were just more coming, more coming, more coming and going. And I'm seeing this like once or twice a week now.
Do you know what I say about the crows?
Oh, we've talked about you and the crows before, but go ahead.
So there is so much a part of my magic, frankly, that they're on my fourth book's cover. And I see it consistently. Anytime somebody in either magic manifestation or money flow hits a threshold with clearing out more of their ego mind and their old self, and they break through to more of their magical self, the creator in them, and they're more aligned with the trust in their higher self and intuition, and they're more in the flow, and they start to see more synchronicities, crows start to show up.
Mhm.
More typical in my mastermind. So what I've come to understand about the symbolism of the crows is the blackness, right? Like I talked about before with the yin yang, the
Yeah,
mystery,
yeah,
creating from the void. Creating more, you have reached more of your magical innate capacities to create in a more magical flow-like way, using more of and invoking more of that multidimensional metaphysical support.
yeah,
And you're more able to engage your creative capacities in the way they're intended. So anytime a client gets a breakthrough and starts to be able to do that creative power more consistently, the crows show up. It's consistent, and they'll report it to me.
Mhm.
Just kind of like you did. I usually don't see crows, or I've only seen one, and now there's like one car in every day, or now there's three, or it's really unbelievably It's so incredible.
Yeah. I've just become accustomed to just saying my most common greeting is I just say hello, ladies.
But you consider them feminine. That's interesting.
Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah, I just do. Um, you know, the thought that I had while you were
It's like you never
all
thought
of this,
like that.
whether we're talking about magic or talking about flow or talking about creating any of this really fun just stuff,
You say,
is how you do you remember years ago, like, so one of the ways, so, okay, so I'll say it this way. I was talking to my Sunday meditation group about peace a few weeks ago, last week or a few weeks ago. And I found myself bringing up times in my life, times in our lives when we're indecisive, right? Where we just feel like there's this choice or that choice, or there's a couple different choices, and we just find ourselves just thinking, we're doing pros and cons lists, and how not peaceful that feels to feel indecisive when we're just trying to just think our way into it, and we just can't make a decision. And so the idea that one way you can conceptualize peace, uh, and even feel peace, is to sense the absence of those, um, absence of that thinking, the absence of that, not so much thinking, but that absence of that inner debate, that inner going back and forth. Because that going back and forth, should I do this, should I do that today, and just living in that space of indecisiveness and feeling like I have to know, I have to make a decision, and I won't be at peace until I do. Like that's again, going back to the idea of a contrast. That's a great way to feel the contrast between peace and not peace. Um, and so what I was thinking about, because when you're in that place, and I was reading a quote about, I think it was Ramakrishna was said something, it was something about the bumblebees, about how,
Almighty be.
about the bumblebees who, it's like they make so much noise when they're buzzing around the flower. The buzzing, if you get real close, you actually don't have to get that close to a bumblebee to hear how much noise they make. when they're around the flower. But when they get in the flower and they're on the nectar doing what they're doing, they're completely silent. And so the way that quote came up was the idea of like all the questions that we have, what it feels like to not have those questions. And we don't have those questions when we are in the presence of the divine. There is the presence of the divine silences all of that. As we think about peace, all of the questioning going away, all of the belaboring of things going away. How we get at everything that we've been talking about in this conversation is like silencing the questions. What would it just feel like? Because all those questions are coming. We just started this conversation about you talking about your clients coming to all of the, like they come to the talk, but not the energy medicine stuff. But all those questions, then maybe they're not, they're not in a place of trust, et cetera, et cetera. But they have questions. We have questions. Our intellect is asking, and it's all just noise that keeps us from experiencing.
Perceiving and receiving what we're
that too.
yeah. And then well, I mean, David, we're switching paradigms now, and I feel like so much of what I'm seeing is and I've been doing this ever since I've been doing this work, and I realize it more and more as I came out of the back-to-back one-on-one sessions that I was doing the model for as my side gig, and then when I came back here dropping it, and like 5 years after that, just being like, okay, what else is possible here? Because I think that this is putting me in an ungrounded, spaced out position, running all this life force through me day in and day out for so many people. So the online model, once I started doing that more, and even I had already had the interviews going on around all sorts of places that I was giving, I remember noticing as we went through these ages, much like I was talking about before. So we've gone through these past years since about 2012. A guide of how to, like, my first signature talk is and was the nature of the mind.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually track one on my meditation product, and the second track is taking people through the process of what Buddha uses the most frequent meditation technique. You used it in the beginning.
I did.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of what we're also talking about, like if we zoom out and take a not even just mountaintop, a satellite perspective, is how to live more from the heart and less from the mind. Because we have been in an era for centuries, millennia of the mind, the age of reason, science. And I'll never forget, I absolutely cherish this moment. It was one of the times I was leading retreats over in the UK, and I was watching a show, and a guy host in his, I would say probably 60s or 70s, was on top of a rock. He was out in nature in a specific, I don't know that it was a sacred spot, but it was maybe like as far as like stone circle kind of a thing. I think he was just out hiking, and he was sitting on a rock, and he said, we have been using our reason and logic for so long now, and to such a degree that we're missing the magic of life, and we need to bring that in more. And so I don't know if that was after or before I got my subtitle for Reasonable Dragons book 3, where logical magic is the new norm. And so I find like people have so many projections about how their intuition is supposed to work, and
Mm.
what it's going to look like if they're living more intuitively and less from the mind, to the point that it's what you were talking about, all that debate, instead of just quieting and allowing. People are very, I don't usually talk in these generalities, but people who haven't done this kind of work yet are very uncomfortable with quiet, because
Yeah,
we've been raised in the West to believe there's some boogeyman hiding under the bed. So if we
yeah,
get quiet and we go in, we're going to find the crazy. And one of the things I love sharing to Western audiences is, hey man, Buddhist meditation, their most basic tenet is every human mind is neurotic. Here are the tools with which to work with your own particular flavor.
Of neuroses. I remember
Yeah.
I loved that. I loved that when I heard that, your own flavor of neuroses.
As opposed to the biggest, thickest document in all of the American Medical Association's texts, which is all of the diagnoses psychological.
Oh yeah. You talk about the opposite of peace. I mean, you just get into fear. You get into all these things that could potentially be wrong. And that's just, so whether it's questioning and debating, or whether it's just flat out fear, or it's just all kinds of things that can, um, we're all heading eventually to the same place. As far as, I mean, at some point, we open.
Or not. I don't find
Mm,
that. And this is just one
It's
of the things I
we're,
was saying last night.
well,
Some people, you gotta, one of my clients is just saying, I've learned, and she's a therapist as well as a practitioner, I'm learning to allow people to have their own consequences.
well, I said eventually, but we don't need to go too deep into what that necessarily means.
Okay.
Uh,
Hey, so you were talking about questions, right? And
yeah,
I
but
want,
yeah, but I gotta go. We're gonna have to
is
talk
it
about
already
it.
that time?
Well, yeah.
We have like 7 more minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, I got to scoot. Now you're mad at me.
We have more time.
uh, oh yeah. What do you
You're
want to say?
saying we don't. You're saying we don't, huh? Okay, I'll listen to you. Yeah, man, I don't know how we're gonna do this next week. I'll be at this time we've been doing it. It'll be my 8:30 on a Friday night, and I will have just gotten to Glastonbury. So maybe we'll have to talk on the side about when we can do this again.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Get some more of these. We'll get some more of these done and out there for sure.
Dude, I don't want to just cut it off here. I feel like you get one other thing to express.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What's that right there?
That was just the silence. That was
And
just
your
the
joy
Yeah.
of the silence.
Yeah, that was just the quiet. I have so much experience with that. All that questioning and all that noise, and it just takes 5 minutes a day to start with. That's what I started with, 5 minutes a day. And I mean, that's one of my most comforting and wonderful quotes. Well, there's the one from Saint Teresa of Avila, who is
Mm,
um, a meditation is well done if all you did was fight distraction.
brilliant.
That's super comforting. And then the other one, which kept me going for the longest time, or getting started, and I tell all of my students now, is that the more you meditate, the more you'll want to meditate. The less you meditate, the harder it will be. That's from Paramhansa Yogananda, and it's could not be more true. I mean, you start off with 5 minutes a day. Before you know it, you're at 8 and 10, and then now you're 20, and where did the time go? And so you get comfortable with the quiet. Yeah. All right. I love you.
I love you too.
Talk soon.
Bye.